a logistics SaaS company, Series C, 60 engineers. They built their own AI agent stack to automate customer support escalations. The pitch to the board: replace a managed platform, save $180,000 a year in licensing fees. 11 months later, the finance team ran the actual numbers. Total cost of the self-built stack, $612,000. The managed platform they rejected, $210,000. They saved nothing. They spent 3 times more to build something worse. This audit explains exactly where that money went. Every AI agent tutorial shows you how to build. Nobody shows you what it costs to run, at production scale, over 12 months, including the line items your framework's GitHub page does not mention. 2 minutes on the mechanics. Then, the audit. An AI agent is not a chatbot. A chatbot responds. An agent acts. It reasons about a goal, breaks it into steps, calls tools, observes the results, and adjusts. Look up a customer record, check inventory, issue a refund, escalate if the refund exceeds policy, confirm with a human if confidence is low. That loop, reason, act, observe, adjust, is what every orchestration framework exists to manage. LangGraph, Crew AI, AutoGen, the Claude Agent SDK. They handle state, tool calls, retries, and failure recovery, so you do not build that plumbing from scratch. The frameworks themselves are open source, free. That fact is the first trap. Here's the number that gets buried. The framework license costs nothing. Framework licensing is 5 to 15% of total agent infrastructure cost. The other 85% is everywhere else. Token consumption is not linear. An agent that completes a task in 3 reasoning steps in testing will, in production, occasionally loop 6, 10, 20 times, chasing an edge case, retrying a failed tool call, second-guessing its own output. That is not a bug. That is the architecture working as designed, and every loop iteration burns tokens. Production telemetry across enterprise agent deployments shows token spend tripling when an agent enters a loop nobody can reproduce in testing. Not occasionally, as a known operating condition. Let's price the build path, line by line. Scenario: a customer support escalation agent, 50,000 conversations per month, multi-step reasoning with 3 to 4 tool calls per conversation. Model cost, baseline. Using a mid-tier model for reasoning steps and a cheaper model for routing, the standard production pattern, average 4,000 tokens consumed per conversation across the full reasoning loop. 50,000 conversations, 200 million tokens monthly. At blended input and output pricing for a mixed-tier setup, approximately $1,400 per month in raw model cost. That number is not the problem. The problem is everything required to make that number reliable. Orchestration overhead. The framework is free. Running it in production is not. You need a dedicated compute layer to host the orchestration logic, typically a containerized service on ECS or equivalent. A modest production deployment, $400 to $600 per month in compute, scaling with concurrent agent sessions. Observability. You cannot debug an agent you cannot see inside. Langsmith, Langfuse, or equivalent tracing platforms charge per trace. At 50,000 conversations, averaging 4 to 6 trace steps each, monthly trace volume exceeds 250,000. Commercial observability tooling at this volume, $200 to $1,500 per month, depending on the platform and retention window. Skip this layer and you are debugging production failures blind. Teams that skip it report the same outcome. Agents fail silently for weeks before anyone notices. Failure retry costs. Every agent has a failure rate. Conservative estimate for a moderately complex tool calling agent. 8 to 15% of conversations require at least 1 retry due to a failed tool call, a malformed response, or a timeout. Retries consume tokens identically to successful runs. At a 12% retry rate, your effective token consumption is not 200 million tokens. It is closer to 224 million. That delta does not appear in your initial cost model. It appears on the invoice. Now the cost nobody puts in the proposal. Human supervision. Agents that handle customer-facing actions, refunds, account changes, escalations, require human review for low-confidence decisions. Industry data on enterprise AI agent deployments puts the failure rate for production AI projects at over 70% when this layer is underbuilt or skipped entirely. A human-in-the-loop reviewer, reviewing flag decisions at a conservative 15% flag rate across 50,000 monthly conversations, 7,500 reviews. At an average of 4 minutes per review, that is 500 hours per month. One full-time reviewer covers roughly 160 hours. You need 3. Fully loaded cost for 3 review staff, $14,000 to $18,000 per month, depending on market and seniority. This one line item does not appear in a single agent framework's documentation. It is not a framework cost. It is the cost of the framework being wrong often enough to need a human behind it. Total monthly cost, self-built stack, fully loaded. Model cost with retry overhead, $1,570. Orchestration compute, $500. Observability, $800. Human supervision, $16,000. Monthly total, approximately $18,870. Annual total, $226,440. Add the engineering cost of building and maintaining the orchestration layer itself, the part every framework comparison treats as a footnote. 2 senior engineers at 40% allocation for ongoing maintenance, debugging, and framework version upgrades. $200,000 annually at fully loaded North American rates. True annual total for the self-built stack, $426,440. The company from the opening exceeded even this. Their number, $612,000, included a failed first orchestration framework migration, a 6-week production outage from an unhandled edge case, and emergency contractor costs to stabilize the system. That is not a hypothetical worst case. That is the median outcome when the human supervision layer is underbuilt. Now the bypath. Same workload. A managed agent platform handling the same volume, 50,000 conversations monthly, equivalent tool integrations, built-in observability and guardrails. Platform fee at this volume tier, $8,000 to $12,000 per month, inclusive of orchestration, observability, and baseline guardrails. Model costs, identical because the model layer is not where the platform adds its margin. Approximately $1,570 per month, same as the build path. Human supervision, still required. The platform does not eliminate the need for human review of high-risk actions. Same $16,000 per month. Annual total, by path, $222,840. No engineering maintenance line. No framework migration risk. No 6-week outage. Delta against the true build cost, $203,600 per year, in favor of buying. This is not a verdict that buying always wins. Building wins under 3 conditions. First, query volume exceeds 500,000 conversations monthly. At that scale, the fixed engineering cost of a self-built stack amortizes across enough volume that the per-conversation cost undercuts platform fees, which typically scale with usage. Second, your agent logic requires deep integration with proprietary internal systems that no managed platform supports natively. Custom orchestration becomes the only option, not a cost optimization. Third, agentic AI is your core product, not internal tooling. If you are selling agent capability, not just using it, full control over the orchestration layer is the product, not overhead. Outside these 3 conditions, the build path is an engineering project disguised as a cost-saving measure. Decision matrix. No ambiguity. Under 100,000 monthly conversations, agent logic is standard customer-facing automation, no proprietary system integration requirement. Buy. The build path's fixed costs do not amortize at this volume. The data mandates a managed platform. 100,000 to 500,000 monthly conversations, with deep proprietary system integration required. Model both paths against your actual integration complexity before deciding. The break-even point depends entirely on integration depth, not volume alone. Above 500,000 monthly conversations, or agentic AI is the core product. Build. At this scale, control and unit economics favor ownership. Budget for the human supervision layer from day one. It is not optional infrastructure, it is the primary cost driver, regardless of which path you choose. Any scale, any path. Budget human supervision cost before model cost. Teams that model token spend first and supervision cost as an afterthought are the teams that end up at $612,000. The logistics company migrated to a managed platform 9 months after the original build decision. Migration cost, $40,000. Annual cost dropped from $612,000 to $211,000. The original decision was not wrong, because building AI agents is a bad strategy. It was wrong because the proposal modeled token cost and called it done, while the supervision layer, the retry overhead, and the engineering maintenance burden went uncosted until the invoice arrived. That full cost model takes one afternoon to build. The agent runs in production for years. All pricing figures reflect official vendor documentation and verified industry benchmarks as of May 2026. Framework pricing, model rates, and platform fees update frequently. Verify current figures before any infrastructure commitment. Subscribe to the Stack Anatomy. We'll see you in the next dissection.